The alien council chamber hummed with bioluminescent contempt as Commander Jakar delivered his verdict. The human will not survive the night on Frostclaw Prime. No species has endured a single rotation without environmental suits. Mackenzie crossed her arms, her jaw tight. Declan's tougher than you think. Tough? Jakar's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among the Veshtari. Your companion possesses no natural armor, no thermal regulation beyond primitive sweating, no protective fur. He is, as your people say, soft meat. The wager had been simple, insulting even. The Veshtari had challenged humanity's inclusion in the Galactic Congress, claiming humans were too fragile for frontier worlds. Declan had volunteered immediately, that reckless grin on his face that Mackenzie both loved and feared. Just one night, he'd said. How bad could it be? Now, watching the monitors as Declan was deposited onto Frostclaw's ice-scoured plains, wearing nothing but thermal underwear, standard-issue pants, and a thin jacket, Mackenzie wondered if his confidence had finally outpaced his survival instincts. The temperature readout made her stomach clench, negative 47 degrees Celsius, with wind gusts reaching 80 kilometers per hour. Declan hit the frozen ground and immediately understood why the Veshtari thought he'd die. The cold wasn't just uncomfortable, it was aggressive, predatory, seeking entry through every gap in his clothing. His breath crystallized instantly, and the wind carved through his jacket like it wasn't even there. Okay, he muttered, teeth already chattering. Not ideal. The landing site offered nothing. Flat ice in every direction, scattered rocks, some sparse vegetation that looked like crystallized tumbleweeds. The binary suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and black. Declan's hands were already going numb. He knew the timeline. Exposed skin would get frostbite in minutes. Hypothermia would set in within the hour. Unconsciousness, then death. Unless he got creative. He started moving, not randomly, but with purpose. Movement generated heat, and more importantly, it kept his mind sharp. He surveyed the terrain with the methodical eye of someone who'd grown up camping in the Canadian Rockies and had later survived worse during his military service. The rocks scattered across the plain weren't random debris. They were windswept into natural formations. Declan studied the patterns, noting how some clusters created small pockets of relative calm. He chose the largest formation, a collection of boulders that formed a rough semicircle. Windbreak, he said aloud, partly to the monitoring drones overhead, partly to keep himself company. First rule of wilderness survival, get out of the wind. The Veshtari, watching from orbit, exchanged confused glances. The human was rearranging rocks? Declan worked quickly despite his numbing fingers. He gathered smaller stones, filling gaps between the larger boulders, creating a crude but effective barrier. The wind's howl diminished to a manageable whistle. Already the difference was noticeable, but shelter alone wouldn't keep him alive. He needed heat. The crystallized vegetation dotted the landscape like nature's kindling. Declan gathered armfuls, his military training kicking in. He'd read the mission briefing thoroughly. Frostclaw's atmosphere was oxygen-rich, similar to Earth's Carboniferous period. That meant fire would burn hot and fast. The problem was ignition. Declan patted his pockets and found his lucky find, a small metal lighter Mackenzie had slipped into his jacket before departure, against regulations. He could almost hear her voice. "Because you're an idiot who'd volunteer for something like this, and I know you." He kissed the cold metal. "Love you too, Mac." The vegetation was dry from the constant freeze, practically begging to burn. Declan arranged it carefully in his rock shelter, using his body to block the wind. The lighter sparked once, twice, then caught. Fire bloomed in the alien twilight. In the observation chamber, Jakar's confidence wavered. Impossible. That vegetation has a moisture content that should prevent combustion. Should, Mackenzie said, unable to keep the smile from her voice. "But it's been freeze-dried by your lovely weather. Basic chemistry, Commander." The thermal imaging showed Declan's core temperature stabilizing, even rising slightly. The human had created a microenvironment. Declan fed the fire methodically, letting himself appreciate the simple miracle of warmth. His fingers tingled painfully as sensation returned, a good sign. He removed his boots and socks, warming his feet carefully to prevent frostbite, then put them back on. But fire alone wasn't enough for the full night. Fuel would run out, and the cold would return. He needed insulation. The ice itself provided the answer. Declan used flat rocks to cut blocks from a nearby snowdrift, packing them around his shelter's exterior. The irony wasn't lost on him, using frozen water to insulate against freezing. But igloos had kept his ancestors alive in Earth's Arctic for millennia. The principle was sound. Ice blocked wind and, paradoxically, trapped heat better than empty air. He worked for 2 hours, building, reinforcing, improving. His shelter evolved into something between a snow cave and a stone bunker, with the fire at its heart and him in the middle, finally, blessedly, warm. Declan arranged more fuel within arm's reach, rationing it to last until sunrise. He fashioned a crude torch from bundled vegetation and wedged it into the rocks, creating a second heat source. The flickering light danced across ice walls, transforming his survival shelter into something almost cozy. As the planet's twin moons rose, casting ethereal light across the frozen plain, Declan pulled his jacket tight and actually smiled. His stomach growled. Hunger was uncomfortable but not immediately dangerous. His throat was dry. He'd melt ice chips for water come morning. His body ached, but he'd live. He'd built something from nothing, used Stone Age technology and human stubbornness to thumb his nose at a planet designed to kill him. "Still alive, you bastards," he whispered to the monitoring drones. When the binary suns rose 8 hours later, painting Frostclaw's ice sheets in shades of gold and pink, the Veshtari expected to find a frozen corpse. Instead, they found Declan sleeping peacefully in his handmade shelter, torch still burning, a neat stack of fuel beside him. His thermal readings showed a comfortable 37 degrees Celsius. The human had thrived. Mackenzie was crying when they brought him up, though she punched his shoulder hard enough to bruise. "You reckless, brilliant idiot," Declan grinned, exhausted but triumphant. "Told you. How bad could it be?" Commander Jakar approached, his posture conveying something that might have been respect. "You adapted. Humans are not the strongest or fastest species, but you refuse to accept the limitations others place upon you." "That's right," Declan said, accepting a thermal blanket. "We're persistence predators, Commander. We don't give up. We don't freeze. We build fires, we make shelters, and we survive. That's what humans do." The Veshtari delegation voted unanimously to approve humanity's full membership that afternoon. And somewhere on Frostclaw Prime, a small shelter of stones and ice remained. A monument to human ingenuity and one man's refusal to die quietly.